I was sitting in my office on a Tuesday afternoon, staring at a blueprint that wouldn't align, when the phone rang. It was a local number, one I didn't recognize. "Hi, is this David? This is Marcus from the Oak Ridge Class of '04 Reunion Committee. We're just trying to clear up some significant confusion regarding Elena's registration for the gala this weekend." I laughed, thinking it was a billing error or a seating request. I told him I was her husband and I'd be happy to fix it. But by the time Marcus finished his next sentence, my heart hadn't just skipped a beat, it had stopped entirely. Because according to their records, my wife wasn't just coming with me, she had already RSVP'd as the spouse of 2 other men for 2 different nights of the event. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why that phone call didn't just break my heart, but effectively deleted the last 8 years of my life, I need to take you back to where it all started. On the surface, Elena and I were the couple everyone wanted to be. We lived in a quiet, leafy suburb of Richmond in a renovated Victorian that I'd spent 3 years perfecting. She was a high-end real estate agent, the kind who could sell a shack for $1 million just by the way she described the natural light. I was a partner at an architectural firm. We had what I thought was a rhythm. We had the Tuesday rule. No matter how busy we were, we'd go to this little Italian bistro called Marcello's, sit in the same corner booth, and just talk. She used to call me her anchor. She told me that after the chaos of her childhood and the pressure of her job, I was the only thing that felt real to her. Looking back, the first crack appeared about 3 years ago. It was subtle. She started talking about her high school legacy. She hadn't been back to her hometown in years, but suddenly she was obsessed with the alumni newsletter. She started taking these business retreats once a quarter. They were always over the weekend, always in cities just far enough away that I wouldn't drop by, but close enough to drive. She'd come back from those trips glowing, rejuvenated. I thought she was just killing it in the real estate market. That should have been my first warning. But what came next was so much worse. When Marcus from the committee told me there were 3 Elenas registered, I thought it was a prank. "Marcus, you must have the wrong person," I said, my voice steady but my stomach starting to churn. "Elena Vance, maiden name Rossi, class of 2004. There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear the sound of paper shuffling. "That's the one, David. But here's the thing. We have an RSVP for Elena and David Vance for the Saturday dinner. But we also have an RSVP for Elena and Mark Thompson for the Friday mixer. And then there's a third one, for the Sunday brunch, Elena and Greg Miller. All 3 registrations use the same maiden name, the same graduation year, and, this is why I called, the same personal cell phone number." My blood went cold. I felt the room tilt. "Mark Thompson and Greg Miller?" I whispered. "Yeah," Marcus said, sounding genuinely uncomfortable now. "And David, I've been looking at the old photos the committee has been scanning for the slideshow. She's in the 5-year reunion photos with Greg. She's in the 10-year photos with Mark. And now she's with you. It looks like she just switches us out, or switches them out." If that was all I found, maybe I could have convinced myself it was a clerical error. Maybe she had cousins with the same name. But I knew. In that moment, 1,000 tiny inconsistencies from the last 8 years suddenly snapped into focus. I hung up the phone without saying goodbye and walked straight to our guest bedroom. Elena kept an old MacBook in there, one she said she only used for archiving old files. I spent the next 4 hours descending into a hell I didn't know existed. I broke the password on the 3rd try. It was her maiden name, followed by '04. Inside, there wasn't just one life. There were 3. I found folders organized by name: Mark, Greg, David. Under Mark's folder, there were photos of a house in North Carolina, a house I'd never seen. There were tax documents. She had a joint bank account with a Mark Thompson. They had been married for 12 years. According to the dates, she was married to him before she even met me. Then I opened Greg's folder, a condo in Maryland. They'd been together for 15. And that's when I realized this wasn't just a one-time thing. This wasn't a standard affair. Elena wasn't just cheating, she was a polygamist. She was living 3 entirely separate lives, rotating her time between us under the guise of regional real estate listings and corporate retreats. She had different hairstyles in the photos, different styles of dress. With Mark, she looked like a preppy country club wife. With Greg, she looked like a bohemian artist. With me, she was the sophisticated professional. I sat in the dark of the guest room, the blue light of the laptop screen reflecting off my wedding ring. I felt a sense of cold rage I didn't know I was capable of. I knew exactly what I was going to do, but I had to be patient. The reunion was in 3 days. I spent the next 72 hours acting completely normal.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I watched her eat dinner. I watched her laugh at a joke on TV. I even kissed her goodbye when she left early on Friday morning for the setup committee. "I'll see you there Saturday night, honey," she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Don't forget your cufflinks. I want you to look perfect." "I won't forget a thing, Elena," I said. She had no idea what was coming. Saturday night arrived. The Oak Ridge Hotel ballroom was draped in gold and black streamers. Music from the early 2000s was pumping through the speakers, a sickeningly upbeat backdrop for what I was about to do. I didn't go in the front entrance. I waited. I had called Marcus back. I told him everything. He was horrified, but he agreed to help me. He told me which table was hers. I walked into the ballroom at 8:30 p.m. The air was thick with the smell of cheap perfume and expensive catering. And there she was. She was standing near the buffet, wearing a deep emerald dress I'd bought her for our last anniversary. She looked stunning, but she wasn't alone. She was tucked under the arm of a tall, athletic-looking man with graying temples. He was laughing, his hand resting familiarly on the small of her back. That must be Mark, I thought, or maybe Greg. I didn't rush. I walked slowly, weaving through the crowd of strangers reliving their glory days. As I got closer, I saw a third man approaching them from the bar. He had 2 drinks in his hand. He walked up to Elena, gave her a gin and tonic, and kissed her on the cheek. The athletic man, Mark, looked confused. "Who's this, Elle?" Elena didn't even blink. "Oh, Mark, this is Greg. He was the class president, remember? We were just catching up on the committee work." She was doing it, right there, in a room full of people who knew her. She was juggling 2 of us at the same time, betting on the fact that the ballroom was crowded enough and the years had blurred everyone's memories enough that she could pull it off. I stepped into the light of their circle. "And who am I, Elena?" I asked. My voice was calm, conversational. The transformation in her was instantaneous. It was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. The color didn't just leave her face, it vanished, leaving her a ghostly, sickly gray. Her glass of gin and tonic tilted in her hand, liquid dripping onto her emerald dress, but she didn't seem to feel it. "David," she whispered. Her mouth stayed open, but no other words came out.
Mark and Greg both turned to me. Mark was the first to speak. "I'm sorry, who are you?" "I'm Mark, Elena's husband." "That's funny," Greg said, his brow furrowing as he looked at Mark. "I'm Greg. I've been married to Elena for 15 years. We have a place in Bethesda." The silence that followed was deafening. It was as if the music had been sucked out of the room. People at the neighboring tables started to turn. Marcus, the committee guy, was standing a few feet away, holding a manila envelope I'd asked him to bring. I looked at Elena. Her eyes were darting toward the exit, her hands gripping the edge of the linen-covered table so hard her knuckles were white. She looked like a trapped animal, stripped of the poise and the lies that had protected her for over a decade. "She's a busy woman," I said, looking at Mark and Greg. I felt a strange sense of kinship with them in that moment. We were all just ghosts in her machine. I took the envelope from Marcus and laid it on the table. Out tumbled the photos. The house in North Carolina, the condo in Maryland, the marriage certificates I'd pulled from public records in 3 different counties over the last 2 days. "She has a Tuesday night rule with me," I told them. "I bet she has a Wednesday night rule with you, Mark. And Greg, let me guess, you get the weekends when she's visiting her mother." Greg's face crumbled. He looked at the photo of my wedding to Elena, the one where I was lifting her up in front of the gazebo. Mark looked at the tax documents. "Elena?" Mark's voice was breaking. "What is this? Who are these people?" She tried. Even then, she tried to spin it. She took a step toward Mark, her hand reaching out. "Mark, honey, it's not what it looks like. It's a stalker. He's obsessed with me. He's faked all of this." I didn't even have to argue. I just pointed to the screen at the front of the room. Marcus had changed the scheduled slideshow. Instead of Oak Ridge memories, a giant photo of Elena and me filled the screen. Then it flickered to Elena and Mark, then Elena and Greg. The entire ballroom went silent. The stalker lie died in her throat. She looked around the room and realized there was no way out. There were no more personas left to play. She wasn't the real estate mogul, the artist, or the country club wife. She was just a woman standing in a room full of people who finally saw her for exactly what she was. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just turned and ran,
She pushed through the double doors of the ballroom and disappeared into the night. The aftermath was a whirlwind of legal fire. It turns out, when you're married to 3 people at once, the legal part gets very complicated very fast. Mark, Greg, and I ended up meeting for coffee a month later. We weren't friends, but we were the only 3 people on Earth who understood the specific type of vacuum Elena left behind. We found out she'd been using our credit to fund the lifestyles of the others. She was a master of the shell game, moving debt and assets around like a grandmaster playing 3 games of chess at once. I filed for an annulment based on bigamy. I sold the Victorian house. Every time I looked at the crown molding I'd installed, I saw her face, and I couldn't breathe. It's been a year now. I live in a modern loft in the city. No history, no legacy, just clean lines and new beginnings. I heard through the grapevine that Elena moved 2 states over. I sometimes wonder if there's a 4th man out there, some guy sitting in a bistro on a Tuesday night, listening to her tell him that he's her anchor.
But that's not my problem anymore. I lost 8 years to a ghost, but I gained something better. The truth. I'm not anyone's anchor anymore. I'm just me. And for the first time in a long time, that's more than enough. When the phone rings now, I don't flinch. I just answer it, knowing that whatever is on the other end, it's real. And in the end, that's the only thing that actually matters.